Welcome to Beyond the Things Written. Today's episode, I'm going to take a short video to talk about the moment the spell was broken. All right. And that's what I liken to it. Being a Jehovah's Witness was like being under a spell, a really horrible spell, a crippling spell. I really believed it. And, but it's so strange is that once that spell's broken, it's just becomes so obvious. And then, of course, just once you do the research after that, constantly trying to reaffirm that this is true. And my moment of spell breaking was not Crisis of Conscience, the book over there, but it was the one beside it, Christian Freedom, or I have the hard copy version here. I have actually 3 versions of it. And I want to share the moment that the spell was broken, because I actually have the very page. And it was under, again, Christian Freedom, written by Ray France, former governing body member. And I had gone through the Christian Freedom book, and I was like, I'm good. I'm good. That's how in the cult I was. I read Christian Freedom. I was like, I'm going to be a pioneer now. Seriously, I did. I was going to be, because we were supposed to have kids. And one of the reasons why I actually got Ray's books was because, it was my wife. We were now married 4 years. It's time for the baby. So I had to make sure. I was like, I'm not raising kids to be Jehovah's Witnesses. I got to dot that I and cross that T just to make sure. Being a Jehovah's Witness child is extremely difficult, especially when you add in mental health issues like pure OCD that I had in childhood trauma. It was miserably terrible. At one time, I remember praying too, still praying to Jehovah. And I was made a prayer to Jehovah, if it's the truth, just let me know. Little did I know, within an hour, my entire life was about to change. It's in the topic, the greatness of the good news. And what's interesting is that the preceding chapter called A People for His Name, I completely disagreed with him. Because Jehovah's Witnesses are so indoctrinated that the pronunciation of Jehovah's name somehow is in harmony with calling on his name, which of course they don't even believe that. But so now I'm going into this chapter, not really thinking I'm going to lose my faith or anything like that. I was wrong. Now, of course, it goes off. I'm going to get to the meat of what it was, because it happens to be on the very last page. So he goes through, first of all, the amount of preaching and things of that nature, what their version is, focused on 1914, 1919, and then what the Bible says is the good news. And we can see that, for instance, at 1 Corinthians 15, that has to do with Jesus' death and resurrection, and how that affects our relationship with God if we have faith and are baptized into Christ and so forth, and how we live after that. But on page 554, it comes to the end of the matter. I remember too getting so excited, and my heart was beating so fast because I was getting it. I was finally getting it. I was going through these pages and I was just getting excited. And I saw the italicized word, this good news. That's why we have an episode coming up called This or That Good News. What is the good news that's supposed to be preached? It's not the preaching that's the important thing. Is what type of preaching? What are you preaching? And so let me just read it and share with you the spell being broken. And hopefully some of you it'll give you pause too if you're still a witness. Because this is the heart of the matter, really, isn't it? Preaching. On 554, it says, as he sums up, it seems incredible that any organization can rationalize such an imaginative reversal of matters, of how they can justify their assuming the right to adjust the good news of the first century, in effect, rewriting the script so as to accommodate it to fit the doctrinal system they have developed. Certainly, the international proclamation in which they replaced the first century good news with their own 20th century version thereof, now 21st century version thereof, does not qualify as fulfilling Jesus' prophecy about the preaching of the good news to all the nations. When he said, this good news of the kingdom will be preached in the whole world, he clearly referred to the good news as he presented it. 1914 free, 1919 free. That's me adding to it, just in case you're wondering. And as it was thereafter presented by his apostles and disciples. Not some rewritten script of the good news to be found 1900 years later only in the publications and magazines of a particular religious movement out of America, as I might add. The original good news, not that is here or there, but it's interesting because then you have other, anyways, I'll get to that later. It's amazing how geography plays a role often in what one believes, but I digress for the moment. Back to the book. The original good news heard in the first century remains the everlasting good news that needs no updating and is the basis for the faith that was once for all time delivered to the holy ones. It was salvation in the first century, 4th century, 5th century, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 20, 21st, 22nd, whatever, until Jesus returns. It will always remain the good news. And that is the good news that will be preached. It is not your interpretations of Revelation, not your interpretation of Ezekiel. It's not about your interpretations of the Antichrist. It's about Jesus' death and resurrection and what that does to those that have faith in him. So that was the moment that woke me up. And I've been continually waking up since then. I was a little groggy and, my eyes are getting wider and wider. So what was the moment that woke you up? Please share that in the comments if you can. Like and subscribe. Support the channel. Support the work here we're doing at BTTW. Support over 30 years of research and development. Help bring scholars aboard. And we hope to hear from you. And as we say, don't be afraid of them or what they say. Keep well. And we'll see you next time. Oh yeah, we also say time is on our side. Time is on our side. Keep well. We'll see you next time on Beyond Things Written.